Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds, hanging out with these nerds.
Nathan Nerdarch.
Nerdarchis Ted.
In this monster BFF, our clay golem says there's always room for Jello. Jump down the description below where you can find Nerdarchy, the newsletter, game weekly tips, as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy.
So today we have a BFF request from Locrius.
Yes.
Plantoid.
Our good friend. And he wants us to do clay golems and gelatinous cubes.
At first I was a little leery of this combination. I'm like, it's like, basically this is the Dumber and Dumber version of Monster BFF. So we haven't done a Monster BFF in a while, and we're like, all right, we'll look at them. And actually these, we can see why he picked these two monsters. They have a lot of good synergy. And really this combination is all about telling your players that you really hate them in no uncertain terms.
And if a TPK happens, then it happens.
All right, so Nate, you got the clay golem open there. What page number is that?
That is a 168 in your trusty monsters menu.
And if you go over to page 242, you can find your gelatinous cube.
So what are the CRs on these monsters?
Well, the clay golem that I'm looking at is a challenge rating 9, so good 5,000 XP.
And the gelatinous cube is a challenge 2, only 450.
So you should throw several of them in there.
So you could put a couple gelatinous cubes in there, or you could make your own advanced size and make it
Huge.
make it huge and have this thing.
Because then it can fit inside.
Like literally, you encounter the clay golem doing the backstroke through it. The thing that makes this combination so devastating is the fact that clay golems are just a tough monster, but on top of that, one of the things that heals them is acid damage,
Which is what the gelatinous cube does.
Yes.
Yes, and one of the problems with the gelatinous cube is it can hinder adventurers, one, with the damage, but two, when they engulf them, they're being suffocated, they're being basically restrained, they can't move. A DC 12 strength check is not probably going to be a big deal for a clay golem. It's kind of like a minor impediment, and it's not going to take any damage, and it doesn't need to breathe. It kind of feels nice.
It's like, oh, I get in this thing and I just get put back together.
Yeah, it's like a buffing, polishing sec.
So I would treat the gelatinous cubes as not as monsters, but more like hazards. At a level when a gelatinous cube is going to be a challenge for your players, the clay golem is out of their league, and when
By the time that the clay golem is a challenge, the gelatinous cube is kind of meh.
yeah, it's not gonna make much difference. So how would I use them? I would do floor and ceiling pit traps. Is like one of the ideas I came up with, where there's pressure plates. If you step on them, and it opens a trap door, could be below you or above you. And if it's above you, a gelatinous cube slides out onto that square.
Like some cranberry sauce out of a can.
Yes.
Huh, I thought I was going to die from that trap. What's the slurping sound? Oh, God.
Yeah, or it could even be like open pits, right?
Yeah.
On the floor that they don't open up. It's just like the players, there's a pit there, don't go. They could look in there and be like, oh, there's nothing in there.
Yeah,
right,
it looks shiny on the bottom, maybe.
They're virtually invisible. They're hard to see through. But the golem is going to follow whatever orders it's got last. So, like, its thing is to push people in the pits.
Throw out the trash.
Yeah, pretty much. And at the same time, if you have the ones that fall from the ceiling, they're probably going to ignore the clay golem for the most part, because they're interested in organic material.
Which the clay golem happens to not be.
I don't know how many instructions the golem can follow at the same time. Like, if it can have multiple sets of instructions, like, hey, you're damaged, go walk into the cubes.
Right.
Well, the word of warning about the clay golems is they're a bit twitchy out of all the golems. So,
well, yeah, I believe the flesh golem and the clay golem; those are the ones that have the ability to go berserk.
Yes,
I think that's where the twitchiness kind of comes into play.
Yeah. So, going off of what you said, I could see during combat that if the clay golem is get rid of all intruders, throw them away or throw them in the pits. To get rid of them, the clay golem is going to try and grab somebody, punch them around, and slam them into this gelatinous cube pit.
It also just creates an interesting, like, if you have a bunch of them, it creates this interesting dynamic where the players are trying to not fall in the pits, or what if it's more like catwalks, and it's all gelatinous cube underneath.
Oh yeah.
One of the players might get the brilliant idea of, well, let's push the clay golem into the off the catwalk.
Yeah, and then it goes, and then it gets back up, swims, and it's just like brand new.
Yeah, it's good as new. I was like, well, that didn't work very well. And I would treat the gelatinous cubes as interesting terrain pieces, or traps, or hazards, or some combination thereof.
Right.
See, now I had the idea that normally gelatinous cube kind of slides along the dungeons, which is why it's cube shaped. If you have square dungeons, I guess you'd have a different shaped gelatinous cube based on different shaped dungeons. But they have the clay golem defeats everything in the dungeon as per orders, and then the gelatinous cube is just a cleanup crew, so everything looks nice and spotless
afterwards. I knew you were going with the cleanup crew, so like part of me's thinking like, the clay golem's got coveralls on, and he's got this big like almost like this big broom like thing he uses to push the cube down the hall.
No, that could be something useful. If a clay golem, it's got a bad perception, but maybe it could accept the instructions of, if you see something, push it into this.
I think that would fall into the category.
Mash it up into nice compact pieces and throw it into the...
I also think a nice tactic. I mean, the clay golem's only got an intelligence of 4, but it's got an 8 wisdom. It could have learned that...
But the guy only got an intelligence of 4, but it does have an 8 wisdom. Like that was a perk. The way you say it, we're like
8 being higher than 4.
Well, true, but the way you said it, like I think me and Nate were gonna go, oh, well, they've got like a 12 or 14 wisdom.
Yeah, they would look at
like no.
So like it has the ability to pick up on the fact that if the cube's been around for a while, especially if you're treating them as the more hazards, that it could grapple things and then jump into the cube. So it can punch while it's getting healed. Take one of the...
I think those tactics are beyond a clay golem that isn't instructed to do that. The golems are really... Basically, they're
automaton.
Or robots that they just follow whatever orders are given. If left... Matter of fact, one of the things that makes them freak out is if they're not given orders, or they can't complete the orders that they were given. So that is one of the kind of the issues.
Now, you brought up the idea of actually having a big cube, like almost be slimy armor or something.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we talked about off camera is, I mean, if you honestly, it's like, all right, here's a large figure, here's a cube that we made that's actually bigger than that. So what happens if they're traveling together? The golem is literally inside, and in the dark corridor, the gelatinous cube is kind of hard to notice that it's really there. So you might just see the golem moving a little slower than it normally would, because the cube has a 15, whereas the clay golem has got a 20. It's like, all right, it's moving a little bit slower, and the PCs go to engage, and next thing you know, they realize, wait a second, this thing's surrounded by acid. It'd be a pretty devastating situation if you had that larger version, and they actually have to kind of come into it to bring it down.
I'm actually picturing now a huge golem that kind of like has its arms, legs, and head sticking out of the cube, and it just kind of wears it like a little kid, playing with a box. They stick their arms out and legs out the sides.
Or you have an entire dungeon floor be gelatinous cube, like all the corridors are just that's the soup that everything is, and then the clay golem's just like going through,
walking through it.
Yeah, and just following the same order.
The head sticking out of the top, kind of like a shark fin.
Yeah, there's like a little wake of slime. That's this.
The other thing would be to actually have something controlling the clay golem and directing it. So you need something that's intelligent.
Well, that would be whatever your big bad of the dungeon is.
Then the clay golem becomes way more dangerous, because a lot of those ideas you had, he can then instruct it to do. But then the thing is, like, how do you have that not be affected by the gelatinous cubes? Because obviously you want it to be harassing the players and not your other big bad. Granted, there are other ways, like they could be.
Well, if you think the clay golem is unintelligent, your gelatinous cube is even less so.
Well, that's my point.
They have an intelligence of 1 and a wisdom of 6.
Yeah, you're not going to direct them.
They're just really good for low scores, including the lowest armor class I've seen. I haven't seen below a 6, so.
Like I said, they're going to be a hazard, a nuisance. Their whole thing is the players walk around the corner and they don't see it.
Yeah, and just like walk into it.
Yes.
And then it Well,
Oh, what was that CR again? That
2.
was a 2. Yeah, they're a weak. They're an extremely weak monster.
So perhaps there's something in this dungeon or lair that creates gelatinous cubes. I don't know what I don't know what makes them.
like a giant snail excrement or something, or
And like it's a hazard that the big bad has gotten to deal with and knows how to put up with it, and he stays out of its.
He's got it catwalks everywhere.
yeah.
He's got it covered for him, and because he understands the synergy between the clay golem and gelatinous cubes, that they have the ability to be like, all right, well, this is the perfect combination. So I'll just litter my dungeon with these things and stay out of the reach of the cube that wants to eat me. Beyond 60 foot, it has no ability to perceive. So therefore, as long as he stays 60 feet away from any of these things, he's fine.
That's a good point. Also, they're in definitely in Forgotten Realms. There was a god of like slimes and oozes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely a demon lord, Jubilix, I believe the name is, of slimes and oozes. And like I believe in Out of the Abyss, they even incorporate some more like advanced ones. So definitely in a temple dedicated to him, I could definitely see there being a gelatinous cube, and the cultists could have come up with something where they team the clay golem up with the gelatinous cube, or even it could be like a death trap they've set up. You fall in a pit and boom, you're in there with gelatinous cubes and a clay golem, and the clay golem really just has one directive, and that is to kill anything that comes that comes in here not wearing the amulet or a totem or whatever you need for it to be appeased. And gelatinous cubes are going to do what gelatinous cubes do, and they just try and eat organic matter. And they're also going to do it through the most expedient way. So they may actually just try and go through the clay golem. One of two ways, right? The players fall through the chute and they can land in the gelatinous cube, fortunately breaking their fall. Unfortunately, they end up suffering the effects of being engulfed.
Right.
Granted, they're probably high enough level that they're just going to walk right out of it. Even the wizard at this point has a good chance of getting out of it.
Well, no, it's a strength save, right?
Yeah,
so
it's
low
strength
strength wizard.
Well, I mean,
Still
not
only
proficient.
DC 12.
Yeah, so
So you still have like a die chance that someone can pull you out or push you out.
you got a 13 worst case scenario.
It's going to be more of a nuisance. But the other problem now being is on the other side of it is a clay golem. Or if you happen to fall in the other end, right, between you and the gelatinous cube is the clay golem. Well, the clay golem is going to follow its directive, and because I'm thinking like a 10-foot hallway, 10-foot wide hallway, where basically the gelatinous cube can just go in two directions, right?
And that actually makes it simpler for the clay golem too. It's like I don't have to look left or right; I just go forward.
Yeah, pretty much, right? So if it just you could randomly determine where the cube happens to be. And the reason why this is kind of interesting and important is if the golem is in front of the cube, the players are probably going to go before either, and they're going to maybe do some damage to the cube or to the golem, and then the cube is really slow, so it might even take it a couple rounds to get there. But what it has to do is go through the golem, and there might not be any room, so it may even occupy the space of the golem. Which is going to trigger the acid on the golem, which is going to then now it's getting healed.
So I mean, it doesn't do a fantastic amount of damage, but it does 3d6, which is going to automatically heal.
Yes, it's going to automatically heal our clay golem. And not only that, the clay golem is just no chump anyway. So, they've got their golems, so they have tons of immunities and resistances.
Oh, they're immune to acid, poison, psychic, non-magic, non-adamantium weapons. And then they're immune to the conditions of charmed, exhausted, frightened, paralyzed, petrified, poisoned.
And you can't change their shape.
They have magic resistance. And they're considered magic, just in case the players have somehow
have their own resistances.
Right.
Now it doesn't say. I'm thinking of an idea for this, and it doesn't say that gelatinous cubes breathe. I mean, I figure they're oozes, so they have certain whatever like an ooze would normally be. Okay, I've got stuff on it, just oozes in general. So what I was thinking was you could have a swamp area that's going to have a lot of watery places, and have the cubes actually in the water, just scrubbing, basically, probably getting bigger and bigger because there's so much organic matter.
Like algae eaters.
Yeah, like algae eaters, just like scrubbing the swamp area all the time, and there's just so much swampy organic matter that it's always, they're always going around. And I was thinking that you could have the clay golem just simply be like a hag's guardian or something, and the clay golem, because it's immune to all that stuff like drowning and things, it would just drag people into the water, and then these gelatinous cubes would be like, oh, food. And just be all over him. So you're grabbed by a clay golem, getting punched by him, and then you have this gelatinous cube that comes by every once in a while and tries to munch on you, and you're drowning.
All good things.
So really nasty combination, but I think that hag would be that nasty. Evil Witch of the Woods would be that nasty.
I think so.
Oh, sure. There's tons of different ways you can use these guys.
And it takes it out of the dungeon, so.
Never let your oozes out of the dungeon.
Or they just keep on making more of them.
So have you considered this combination before? Have you used it? Do you have any awesome stories? If you do, let's share that down below in the comments. While you're down there, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Check us out over at Nerdarchy.com.
You can patronize us in a good way over on Patreon.
So until next time, stay nerdy. Only $4.50.
So you should throw several of them in there.
So you could put a couple gelatinous cubes in there, or you could make your own advanced size and make it huge. Make it huge and have this thing.
Because then it can fit inside.
Like literally, you encounter
them open there. What page number is that?
That is a 168 in your trusty monsters menu.
And if you go over to page 242, you can find your gelatinous cube.
So what are the CRs on these monsters?
Well, the clay golem that I'm looking at is a challenge rating 9, so good 5,000 XP.
And the gelatinous cube is a challenge 2.
Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds, hang out with these nerds.
Nate the Nerdarch.
Nerdarchis Ted.
In this monster BFF, our clay golem says there's always room for Jello. Jump down the description below where you can find Nerdarchy, the newsletter, gain weekly tips, as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy.
So today we have a BFF request from Locrius.
Yes.
Plantoid.
Our good friend. And he wants us to do clay golems and gelatinous cubes.
At first I was a little leery of this combination. I'm like, it's like, basically this is the dumber and dumber version of Monster BFF. So we haven't done a Monster BFF in a while, and we're like, all right, we'll look at them. And actually these, we can see why he picked these two monsters. They have a lot of good synergy. And really this combination is all about telling your players that you really hate them in no uncertain terms.
And if a TPK happens, then it happens.
All right, so Nate, you got the clay golem.